I started recognizing the samples that are being sold in this pack immediately. I'm like, I've sampled that before, but I got it off of a record from a record store. That's what these sample chop fake sound designers are doing. So you go out and get a placement with these, and the next thing you know, your name is on a lawsuit. I know we have very little time. I want to bring up a topic that is interesting and, in my opinion, terrifying. I think it's been happening forever. People always say, man, you remember those Dusty Fingers records and this and that. I got to look up to see if there were any lawsuits regarding those records. But for those who don't know, there were records released, when I say records, actual vinyl, with uncleared samples on it, breaks, whatever. And I think, it was different because that was DJ culture, not necessarily. It wasn't marketed to producers as material for you to make beats with. I'm not saying people didn't use it for that. I don't think that was the intent, or the way it was marketed. Now, I just saw an ad, and this is relevant because we've been talking a lot about sample clearance lately because of all the lawsuits and legal problems people have been experiencing, ranging from Kanye West with the Ozzy Osbourne and Donna Summer situation to Stunna Girl versus Sierra. Songs are getting shelved, songs are getting erased, songs are getting remade. People are actually getting sued in the case of Kanye West and Donna Summer. And all of these situations are learning experiences for us as music makers to understand how intellectual property works. So a lot of people in the comments are like, well, just stop sampling. It's like, bitch, listen, these bad situations, one, you don't put the genie back in the bottle on a culture that was based on sample-based music. Number two, these are great learning situations where even if you don't sample, intellectual property law still governs your universe as a music maker. So these are, in my opinion, helpful conversations to have for everybody. So again, I'm not here to scare anyone away from sampling or to disparage sample-based producers at all. Every time I post a video explaining how sample clearance works, some Harvard PhD candidates post the genius comment, why don't you just stop using samples? So the point is to educate and how to stay prepared. I'm a member of the producer community, a proud member of the producer community. We touch on a lot of producer community topics on this podcast. And I say this with sadness, but there are some pretty terrible people in the producer community, some pretty greedy, awful people. I got a Facebook ad the other day. A lot of producers use Facebook ads. This is for a sound design company. I'm just going to share my screen so people know I'm not just talking out my ass. So here it goes. First red flag, chopped samples. One, it's chopped samples. It's not like a chopped salad or chop suey, but anyway. This is a red flag because when people say sample chops, they generally don't mean stuff they've made. Now, I've made kits where I've taken my own original material and chopped it up and rearranged it. A lot of that stuff is on Splice too, and it kind of gives you that DJ Premier, Molman, Kanye aesthetic. A lot of us were chopping samples. But this one was a red flag. And I listened to some of the previews. I'm like, these sound really good, which isn't a red flag necessarily because we got Frank Dukes, we got the Record Collective, we've got Kavi. We have all these sample makers that make tracks that do sound like 70s records. Great artists. Support them. This seemed a little too good to be true for some people that I'd never heard of, but maybe that's just me having an ego and thinking that I know the best sample makers in the game. And I don't. I only know a few. But look at the comments. They trying to get y'all sued. Telling me this is a sample pack from our favorite artist's work. Hell no. Is this where we're going with music? Nothing in the site about these samples being cleared. So I investigated, and the crazy thing about this stuff is I started recognizing the samples that are being sold in this pack immediately. I'm like, I've sampled that before, but I got it off of a record from a record store. That doesn't mean you can Shazam it and say, okay, yeah, that's the Bar-Kays, or yeah, that's Thelma Houston, whatever, because some of these samples aren't in Shazam's database. Some of these songs, some of these older soul records, some of the obscure records that producers know about, you can't Shazam. We just know. But some of them you can Shazam, and a bunch of them, I was just hitting Shazam right on my phone, and it was coming up with songs from last year that were in the sample pack, and they weren't even chopped. They were just looped. So even the ad was a lie. We've come to a point where you have to Shazam sound design. Damn. Have either of you seen stuff like this before? Is this becoming more popular?
You have a different algorithm than me because I'm not a producer, so I probably wouldn't see stuff like this. But I'm not surprised.
I think theft is becoming more, and I say theft somewhat lightly, not because it's not theft, but I think it's a lot of ignorance involved in it. But it's becoming a lot more prevalent and just out because the internet is so full of things, and then people don't find this to be problematic, so they're just like, oh, I'm going to do this. I think the wording to me is the biggest issue, because I saw you had tweeted about it, and I was kind of looking, and the guy, like you said, just is like taking old records and just like looping it again, not even chopping it.
And that was a different person, for the record.
Wow.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting. I think going back to creative license and like the foundations of hip hop and the creation of music, I think there's so much beauty when we consistently reiterate and reinvent and recreate other works of art from a place of appreciation and adoration. I feel like my life is just me riffing off of the people that I've been inspired by. But I do think that there's also a level of respect and trustworthiness and truthfulness that needs to be forthcoming when you do things like this. I will give you the benefit of the doubt a lot of times that it's ignorance, but sometimes it feels like intentional gain off of somebody who's not going to pay attention or somebody who's not going to notice, which is hard for me, again, as a Black woman, because it seems like that's like, it always kind of runs down to us where our contributions aren't credited, cited, or paid for. So I don't know. It's an interesting place for me. I think it's cool sometimes. I think it's cool a lot of times, like back to Vano 3000. Like, he's one of my faves and I really rock with what he's doing. I don't know. I just think it's a sticky situation. Going back to that dumb shit that UMG was doing, I felt like this was the perfect place for them to really make themselves relevant. And it's like, yo, you can now license these old works and rework them and yada, yada, yada. We'll put our best in a catalog.
Yeah.
There was so much potential. So I don't know. I'm not somebody who's going to be like, you shouldn't be doing this. This is wrong. I just think it's got to be a level of consideration. I love aggregating cool things. I love when I've never heard something, and like even Paint, I got to dive in with you. You say names, and sometimes after I'll write them down, and then I'll go like look them up, and I'm like, oh shit, I've never heard this before. So I think that there's space for it, but it doesn't feel great. Sometimes when it just feels like it's a money grab or a grab to do something when your music isn't really taking off. So you're like, well, let me just put up this pack and sell it,
Yeah, well, like Vano 3000, right? He's making his music. It's heavily sample based. And I'm not snitching. He's the one that brought that onto himself. But everyone loves his music. He's getting an amazing amount of streams. Where he crossed the line was the Doja Cat situation by claiming ownership of a sample. And all of a sudden, all the people that love his music were like, we got to stop you there, right? So I feel like what you're saying is true. There's a line. Sampling, go ahead and sample. What Tracklib's doing, for example, where they're aggregating everything into a centralized space and then providing education and a pathway to make this safe for everyone involved. Great. It's still a model where you have to pay for that service, just like this. But one of these people is setting you up to get in a lot of legal trouble. The other one is setting you up to not only educate yourself, but have access to even higher quality music in a larger catalog. Now, quick story. I shouldn't laugh about this. I had some friends. I got a laugh to keep from crying. I had some friends who they're not friends now. They've got heavily into drugs. They were doing all types of wild shit. And one of them, it was a couple, and the woman put my name down as a family member on a title loan they got because they were just trying to get money to buy drugs and fast. So they got a title loan on their car, knowing damn well they weren't going to pay because they just wanted that money. Put my name down as a family member contact. So I start getting calls from the title loan place talking about, is this your cousin? Because she hasn't paid her title loan. I'm like, you guys got. They're on drugs, but I don't know where they are. Sorry. So in true drug addict fashion, like when you want drugs, what I'm noticing about people who get addicted to drugs and don't have money for drugs, they come up with some ingenious ways of making money quick. So and they're terrible, immoral ways, but this one is, I don't know why I laughed when I heard this story. So not only did they do the title loan scam, defaulted on that, someone's looking for their car, they take that car and sell it to a mutual friend for $500. So I met up with her just randomly, and she's telling me, I feel bad for her, but she was driving that car thinking everything was good, gets pulled over. That car is property of the title loan company. Now, title loans are predatory, fuck them. But they set her up to fail. She couldn't explain to the cop, no, this is what happened. My friends did this. They set me up. You lost your money that you spent on this car, and you lost the car. And now your little ass has to walk home. That's what these sample chop fake sound designers are doing. So you go out and get a placement with these, and the next thing you know, your name is on a lawsuit, and no label and no sync house will ever work with you again. Potentially. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying they're setting you up for that potential, because this girl could have never gotten caught for driving a stolen vehicle. She did. People get caught for unauthorized samples every damn day. Usually it's not a lawsuit, but sometimes it is, and you want to work with Kanye. You want to work on a Nissan commercial or a Lexus commercial. And if you're aspiring to do those great things and it happens and you don't know the source of your loops and samples and it turns out to be stolen, you're in trouble. You're going to have to walk your little ass home like my friend did when they pulled her over for that car. And there are so many reputable sample makers out there. Buy their packs. Or if you want to actually sample old music, go to the record store and dig, or go on Tracklet. But at least in those situations, you know the source. You know what you're doing. This is a sample off of this record. I know this is a Melba Moore record. I'm looking at it. I'm holding it in my hand. I see the year. I see the title of the songs, all that. So I have a pathway to some sort of legal method of clearing this sample if it comes down to it. I sample all of it. My first big record was a sample. Labels will send you sample forms. All you have to do is fill out that information. It's the easiest thing in the world. But if you don't know where that sample comes from, you can't fill that information out. And either you lose that placement or you lie and you're in trouble. But these labels have musicologists. They'll catch you. These labels are Shazamming shit too. They'll catch you. You think these labels won't catch you for using one of these stolen samples? And in the case of these newer artists, a lot of them are actively scouring the internet to find people who are using their samples. I don't know what's going to happen to the people that are selling these, but if they get caught, they're in a world of trouble. They really are. So just be safe out there. Install Shazam on your phone. It's also available as a Chrome extension. So if you're on your computer browsing for samples, you can Shazam it and you can see if these people are lying to you, selling you a stolen car, or if they're actually that talented. And And it's not always the case, but just look for red flags. You know, everyone has a reputation. Everyone has social media. Read the comments. Just be safe before you spend that money, because those people will leave you high and dry and they don't give a fuck because they got their $20 from you and you're facing legal charge. And they're like, well, that's not my responsibility. I just made the pack. They didn't even make the pack. They lied to you about making the pack, and then they lied to you about what was on the pack. So be careful. I know everyone has to go. So we appreciate you tuning in. There's a lot to talk about. I feel like 2024 is a crazy year for the music business, and we're not even in the second quarter yet, are we? Jeez, there's a lot going on. Appreciate you tuning in. Put your music on the streaming platforms. I don't care if you make beats. I don't care if you have songs just wasting away on your hard drive. The best time to put music on streaming was 10 years ago. The next best time is right now. So go to tolost.com, use the code @odds, get your music on there. It's free for 3 months. You can get a lot of music on in 3 months.
Facts.
@odds is the code. Appreciate you tuning in. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.